All right. Now we're live. Go ahead.
You have to do your welcome.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome to tonight's call. How's everybody doing this evening? Looks like everybody's doing well. Tonight's call, we're going to talk about compliancy and how important it is to your business. So, from what I hear, Tashina, you've got some notes to share. Dana and I have some notes to share. And then we'll take questions because this is actually something that's pretty important to your business, but sometimes we might overlook. Um, so we're going to address it this evening. All right.
Yeah,
So,
I'm gonna let you guys start, and then I'm just gonna add on like some personal stuff or some tips or stuff that I use, and then again questions, and then I want 5 minutes just to share some tips from the Silver Leadership Call.
okay.
Okay, so I'll go ahead and get started. So it's ironic that I would be talking about compliancy, as so when I first started, I thought I understood the whole compliancy thing, and I actually did call myself trying to put forth an effort to make sure that when I spoke compliantly. But I actually was flagged twice by compliancy, and had a specific person that dealt with me one-on-one to get my social media and stuff in line with where it was compliant. So the biggest thing, when we're talking about sharing, this is mainly going to be when we are posting things on social media, or if we have recordings of things that we're sharing, or if we're teaching in class settings. That is the biggest thing where we want to make sure the way we are sharing is compliant. And I actually wanted to kind of talk about really from the perspective of we want to be completely honest and transparent. Yep, twice, flagged by them twice. And threatened to shut my account down. But because the reality is the reason Young Living is so strict about this is because it has to do with us being honest. The honest truth is we are Young Living independent distributors. We are not medical professionals. We are not doctors. So it is not our place to try to treat or cure people. That is just not our place, right? So being honest and open, and the reality is, even if something does have a certain results for one person, we cannot guarantee the same result to another person. So it's important that we empower people to advocate for themselves and for their health. It's important that we're giving them resources and that we are speaking, our stories and things like that. So I'll start with the story thing. So it is 100% compliant to tell your story, the way your story came about. But again, when we talk about truth and transparency, more than likely your story does not encompass just oils or just Young Living, right? So even if your story is, I had digestive issues or I had allergies, you can even say I had allergies, right? In your story, but it wasn't just one oil that fixed or changed your allergies, right? So you need to mention all of the things, right? So I changed my environment. I changed my diet, because all of those things contributed to whatever that disease is, right? So you can still say, when Shannon talks about her story, she says, I have MS. I have lupus, I think it is. You can state those things. That is still compliant as long as you are incorporating all of the things. You can't tell your story and just say, and then I use this oil, or I took Ninja Red, because it has to encompass everything, because that couldn't be the truth anyways. It really has to be all of the things. Does that make sense? Okay. So the other thing I wanted to talk about is there's two different governmental agencies that we're looking at, the FDA and the FTC, right? So a lot of times we talk about the FDA, but I think we also need to understand what the FTC is. So first, the FDA, they regulate, of course, wait. Nope, that's not it. I'm sorry. FDA, they're the Food and Drug Administration. They're responsible for protecting the public health by ensuring the safety, efficiency, and security of foods and drugs, right? The FTC, though, is a completely different entity. They're the Federal Trade Commission. It's an independent agency of the United States government. Both are, government ran, right? Its principal mission is the promotion of consumer protection and the elimination and prevention of anti-competitive business practices that could start monopolies, right? So we want to look at both of those entities because both of those matter when it comes to our sharing, right? So with the FTC, basically their job, according to the government, is for consumers not to be for the consumers to have the full information about products, right? So people can't just put whatever they want to on the market, even though they do, but like that is their job. So we want to abide by not only the FDA, but the FTC. The reality is if we don't comply with these different government agencies, at some point what could happen is the government comes in and then they try to regulate oils, right? And then if we lose that power, then our children aren't going to have oils. Their children aren't going to have oils. So it really creates like a bigger thing than just, oh, I can't say what I want to about certain things because we have these government regulations. So the other thing I wanted to talk about is, so no disease claims or implied. So one big thing that like on my pages where like I got flagged for is it might be something like I have a little snotty nosed boy or whatever, and then I have thieves, and I'm like, don't end up like this little boy, right? Take your thieves, right? So I'm not saying that thieves is going to keep you from being snotty and sneezing, but I'm implying it, right? So I am implying that thieves would prevent you from, having that ailment or whatnot. So we have to be careful not only about making the claim, but that we're also not implying that we're making a claim too. The other big thing that I got flagged for was not comparing brands. So this again falls more under the FTC, right? So if we are bad mouthing another company and saying, well, this is bad, this is this, don't use this, use this instead. And again, when we go back to like being honest, being transparent, like people are more attracted to you when you're positive anyways, right? Like people don't want to follow somebody that's like always negative and knocking everybody else down and things like that anyways. So like facts are facts. There's nothing wrong with sharing facts or whatnot, but especially when we're like posting, especially when we're teaching in front of a bunch of people, like, always stick with like the positive parts of it, which makes it a little bit easier. I don't know. Does anybody have anything else they want to add right now?
I have a few things. I'm here. Hello. So there was a couple things that I wanted to add to what Dana was saying. First of all, I want to stress the importance of compliancy. And for those who have been to maybe some classes that I've taught in person or know me very well, compliancy is something that I struggle with, which is why, like, when Dana's like, what did you have for this call? Like, I fully did my research. I understand compliancy. I know it's something that people probably will struggle with. So if you're like me, realize that number one, it is still very, very important, because one of the things that you would hate to have happen to you and your Young Living business is that you build this wonderful organization and none of it's compliant. And now Young Living can come in and take away your entire business. So you can lose your entire business for not remaining compliant. And not only does that do you a disservice, but in this business, we try to remain duplicable, right? So just think what happens if you have difficulty staying compliant, especially when it comes to things like your Facebook post, your Twitter posts, YouTube videos, Facebook. If you have trouble remaining compliant with those, then your team is going to duplicate that as well. And that's what creates the larger issue for Young Living, where the FTC and the FDA comes in and says, oh, no. You guys are making these claims. None of it's substantiated. Now we have to come in and regulate oils, which I think Julie put it in the chat, but now that means higher cost because it becomes like a prescription medication, more red tape to jump through, and it's just all
in
around.
Quality.
Yeah.
Quality is going to go down because what does the government do with drugs, right? Like they have, knockoff brands to make it cheaper. So that's going to prevent us from having like the best quality oils and having access to that, because then only, medical professionals will have it, or only certain people will have it. So we would never want that to happen.
Right. So number one, that's very important. Realize that it's more than just, not necessarily reflecting Young Living in the best light. I mean, there's lots of detriment that could take place. But something else I wanted to touch on is in Young Living's back office, or in your virtual office, you can actually look up the 25 hot words that are non-compliant that you want to avoid in your post and things like that. But it's only a small sample. One of the things that I gathered from that to think about is, and sometimes we do this all the time, which is why this is funny, and even myself, I do this. But like, let's say that you have like allergies, like you used the example of allergies and how you can say that in your story because you were looking for a solution to allergies. But let's say that we're implying that certain oils are good for allergies, but we're trying not to say allergies. So we use this roundabout way of trying to say nasal support or seasonal discomforts, things like that. Like, we still have to be careful about that because of implication. So even though we may joke about it and we'll be like, support, and try to allude to a certain condition, we have to realize the implication is just as bad as using the actual term.
Yeah, just putting the word support in front of it does not make it now compliant.
Right. Right. So some of the things that you can do, and Shannon's talked about this before in her rallies, is whether you're telling your story, realize whether you're telling your story or you're answering a question, realize that there has to be other things that you're doing besides there just being an oil. And then if you want to say, like, let's say, for example, somebody wants to make a post about losing weight or something like that. Well, they can't just post that I had the Sleek line and the Sleek line helped me to lose weight. They have to post like, I changed my diet, I drank water, I exercised, in addition to using Young Living Sleek line. Well, now that's compliant. So you can say that. So just be careful about, alluding to one thing being, everything, so that you remain compliant. There was something else I had to share.
Can I just jump in? Yeah, I want to jump in for a second on the conversation that's going in the chat. So the issue with comparison, you cannot make comparisons online. So it's not that Jen O'Sullivan's thing is or is not compliant. It's that we brought it as a brochure. So I don't think that you would find her online currently, because I actually copied and pasted from Dana's original the first, I think, spa party that we did, and the words just said, for the makeup, formulated without the other yuckies found in other brands. And even me using that comparison, Compliancy called me and said, change it. You can't make a comparison online. We can't publish this. We need you to change it to formulated without, and don't use compared to other brands.
Yeah, and that's a great point. I remember what my second suggestion was, or second point, and then we can come back to, because Tashina has some things to share as well. But this is something I actually really appreciate from Catherine Trustine. From anyone who had an opportunity to go to Fall Oily Fest or have spoken to her before, her story is actually very, very intriguing. So if you ever get a chance to hear it or ask her about it, I certainly encourage you to. But this was even new for me. She said she had a discussion with corporate at Young Living. And one of the things that they said is totally different is, remember that those compliance statements that you have are most important when you're in the public domain, so to speak. So that's your social media, that's your YouTube videos. Whereas if I am having a conversation with some of my friends or family, or let's say that I'm teaching an in-person class with, some close individuals of mine, not saying that you shouldn't try to remain compliant, but it's not going to be as much of not as much of a stickler about it. So you can actually have real conversations about things that you've tried and done. But remember that when it's in the public, so our rallies, public events, social media, you have to remain compliant, because Young Living has a whole compliancy department that all they do is search for people's Facebooks, and they search the hashtags to try and make sure that everyone stays up on their compliancy.
And then again, that goes back to not being misleading. So if there's somebody in your class that is not in Young Living, and then now you've made a statement or a claim and it misleads this person and they get started or whatnot, then really that is against the FTC. That's against Young Living's policies, right? So it's going to be a different kind of beast versus, again, me and Anthony are talking and we're already both in Young Living versus having a conversation. The other thing that I wanted to just make a statement, like if you're in doubt on a certain product, like the best thing to do is to go on Young Living's site and use their descriptions, right? Like, so if you're like, I don't know, I don't get it, like honestly, that is the best, because everything on Young Living's website is compliant. There might be other Young Living leaders posting and most of it might be compliant, but you still won't be 100% sure, right? So, with Young Living site, it's 100% compliant. So if I want to talk about, because I was going to make a post on Quarterstop, so I'm going straight to youngliving.com and I'm going to look at their description. I'm going to copy, I can reword it a little bit, but I'm going to use their descriptive words on that product, right? Because the reality, again, when it goes back to the people that you're trying to reach, it's your story that's going to draw them in anyways. Like, so we don't need to make certain claims about a product or things like that. The other big thing I wanted to talk about is like the Vitality line versus the classic line, right? So also when we're posting, when we're talking, if we're talking about ingestion, we have to make sure that we're saying the Vitality line. So that's another thing that you can get flagged on. So if I have a picture of a lemon with a solid label and I'm talking about ingesting it, that's not compliant, right? Because it has to be a Vitality bottle that's in the picture, or I have to explain it the way it's used, right? Or if it's a topical one, vice versa, either or. We have to make sure if it's a solid label, we're talking about diffusing it, we're talking about putting it on our skin. If it's Vitality, we're ingesting it, right? So that's important too, to also look at and make sure that we're being compliant.
So really quickly, I just want to address one of the discussion that's going on in the chat for Kate. So Kate said, she was like, the only issue that she has with that is that the description that's on the website barely tells you anything about the product. And once again, that goes back to public domain, right? So what people see online versus having a conversation offline. So I will tell you that if you want to know what most of those products do, Canadian Young Living website, okay? They do not have the FTC in Canada, right, Melissa? Right. So if you want to know what those products actually do for yourself, feel free to visit that website. Now, what I would suggest that, like Dana's example was using, when she wants to make a post about Quarterstop, she's going to use what's on Young Living's website. But let's say that she's having an actual conversation with someone who's already a member, that they've taken that conversation offline. You can have that real conversation.
Or if it's a prospect, you can take it offline. I can get on my phone and talk to somebody, right? Like,
Right.
you can talk, but
Yeah, I was just gonna add, like, so when I think that I've kind of mastered the whole being compliant things. Like, I'm the one that usually corrects everybody when we're in classes and stuff. But yeah, when I'm walking around in the real world and I'm like at the video store and I'm like only there for 5 minutes and somebody says, "Hey, is there anything that will help with glands?" Then I'm gonna say yes. Like, cause it's one-on-one and it's not, so I would agree with you can take it offline. When I went to Sherry Ross's dinner, she had compliance there to help us because this was a couple years ago and it was like we were really getting flagged all over the place. And if it is a one-on-one conversation, the first thing, like Dana mentioned, is we don't want to have the habit of telling people cures. We still don't want to do that all the time on a regular basis because that's the only way our people are going to. So we do want to try to say all of the things and be as compliant as possible in one-on-one conversations. But if somebody is pushing us and says, "Hey, I know you're not a doctor. I know you can't cure anything. Just tell me what you would use," then you can say, "I can't guarantee this will work for you, but here are some suggestions." But again, that can't ever be not even in a Facebook message, not an Instagram message, not a private, secret, closed group, or any other type of social media online domain.
okay. Point then. Yeah. And so then the other thing that I wanted to talk about when it had dealing with like compliance and stuff, like the other reality is like when we are posting again, we want to be careful of the resources that we share, right? So if something can link you back to something that is not compliant, you can get in trouble for that. So I kind of gave up on Pinterest because like that was just too hard for me because it seemed like everything that I would pin, like it would go back to somebody's site and then it wouldn't be compliant. And so Young Living flagged me for a bunch of that stuff or whatnot. So you have to also know what you're linking. Even if it's something that is not Young Living related, you are now a Young Living distributor and a representative of Young Living. So in the FTC's eyes, you are selling oils. So whatever you say or claim, you are selling oils in their eyes. So anything that you link or post, if it is possibly from their perspective going to mislead somebody or make them feel a certain way, even if it's something you linked, you didn't write that blog article that talked about this cure and that cure, but you posted it, it still comes back to you. So you still need to be careful online, links and stuff that you're sharing. You can though say, things like there's plenty of resources that you can use, such as life science publishing, Amazon. You can name a list of resources, but you can't just say like this one book or this one website. But you can list a few that a person might find different resources and things like that on. Keep going, or anybody have anything to add on that?
No, I think that's it.
Okay.
So
that makes sense to everybody.
Okay. So Tashina, you had some things from not Silver Retreat. I'm sorry. What was...
Oh, no, I wasn't done.
Oh,
I just
I'm
wanted
sorry.
to make sure like everybody understood. I don't know, because that kind of got me confused. So I just making sure everybody else understood that part. Like, because when I kept talking to my little lady that was dealing with me, I didn't quite understand. I'm like, but I didn't make, just because I shared, the Dr. Ali's video that he was in or whatever, then I have to take it down. Like, I didn't understand that part or whatever. But if it's not compliant, you can't share the links and things like that as well. Any other notes here?
Okay. So,
So any
any questions on that?
so far, or any other compliant things that we didn't cover that people had questions on?
And once again, just to stress, it's really important for those striving to keep the business. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Well, I was just gonna ask for a little bit of clarification on that because so I posted something recently that was an article by a doctor and he was recommending certain oils for certain conditions. Is that considered not compliant?
It's not compliant if you post it.
Even though the article is by a medical professional?
Correct.
Correct.
So like I know in the beginning I would like post a bunch of Dr. Axe's stuff. You can't post any of that.
And why? I mean, I'm a little bit not understanding why.
Because it links back to you. So if at any point like you are posting that you are a Young Living distributor according to the FTC, then you could be misleading people because when they click on your link, you're the one that posted the link. So they follow the link because they got it from your page and you're representing this company. So now they feel like you have the responsibility to represent that company. If you mislead anybody, we're really coming back for Young Living. But so Young Living is like, we don't want anybody to, somebody to come back for, so they're going to flag you. So they're going to come to you like, hey, let's take this down. Let's clean up your stuff.
So if I can add to it, if I could just add to it. So remember, we are not a doctor. We can't prescribe, treat, or cure anything. So if a doctor posts it, they can see a patient, they have access to that research, and they can prescribe and treat stuff. So Doc Ali can do, wait, what?
So they can, but they cannot post it. So
right.
they can treat in their clinic, they can treat in wherever they work out of, but they cannot post it.
So can I add something?
Go ahead.
We also need to remember that a lot of these doctors, they make claims that are not FDA compliant. So even though they're doctors, they still need to remain FDA compliant. And while their claims might be true, if they are not scientifically substantiated, then their claims are not FDA compliant. So Dr. Axe and Dr. Mercola, a lot of the information they provide may or may not be true, but because there's no scientific research to back it, it's not FDA compliant. And therefore, then if we link it back to them, then we're making that same non-compliant claim is how it's looked at. So,
but just to clarify, this is actually FTC though, right, Dana? This is FTC because we're trying to sell something, right? That claim would possibly get somebody to buy something.
So yes, but it could also fall under FDA if we are posting it under saying that it cures a certain thing too. Okay. So some of the stuff can kind of follow under both.
And remember that also some experiences that people may have, they may be subjective. So let's look at it from the aspect of, let's say I post this article because I, in my opinion, found that it was beneficial for me and my family. Well, that's very subjective. So then if it's on my page and it links back to my account in Young Living, well, then now I'm responsible for whoever sees that information that is linked back to me. So that let's say that somebody tries the exact same thing and they have very different results. Well, now that could leave them open to a lawsuit, and that actually falls under FTC. So you do have to be careful with linking that information. That's why we always encourage people to do their own research, because that information and experiences are going to be highly subjective. That means that your personal experience is going to be your personal experience, and that person's experience is going to be their personal experience. We don't want, Young Living doesn't, and you don't want to have any liability on your hands if someone misuses something based off of something that you posted. Does that answer and clarify it?
Yeah, yeah. I'm just now wondering, why would anyone post online? Because I'm like, oh my gosh, okay, this is kind of scary. But yeah, I'm understanding what you're saying.
Well,
But I
and
think the
remember-
thing to remember is if we go back to remembering that we gotta talk about the root cause of everything, and we tell every piece of our story. So just like Anthony was stating, when it comes to something, when I talked about the sleek products today, I mentioned you got to drink water. I mentioned that we're going to have a class where we're going to get into the details of fitness. So anytime that I talk about immune support, I share my apple cider vinegar recipe, right? So I'm talking about several things that are mixed together. We just got to get in the habit. Half of the time when someone has a headache or a migraine, they're probably dehydrated, right? So like we just got to get in the habit of thinking not in the terms of diseases, but what is the cause and what is the things that will help that cause. And a lot of times that is water, that is diet, that is removing toxins, and there is an oil or supplement that may help. That's almost always going to be the solution. So we should always be talking about detoxing the home, drinking sufficient water, and making sure their diet and gut is together. And then we start talking about the other support stuff.
And just really quickly, I'll say, I know it can seem intimidating. Don't be as alarmed. That compliancy department, like, even though Dana was like, you got to be more specific with certain things, they work for us.
Yeah.
So they're not just there to go and search everybody's post and flag them and come down hard on you. It's like, no, like, we're trying to protect you. So these are the things that you need to change on your page or social media or whatever to stay compliant. They work for you.
Yeah, and I will say they're like super, super nice.
Yeah.
Like, oh my goodness. Like, even because I'm very simple minded. So like, even when they're like, okay, well, here's some examples. I was like, no, I need you to literally take me through every single post that you're talking about. And it took me months to get through it because I literally had to clean up my Facebook, my Instagram, my YouTube, and my Pinterest. But like I said, I gave up on Pinterest because that was just too much. But like, they literally, like, it was like, okay, well, this week we're only going to focus on Facebook, and from now or from today, and we'll only go back 1 year. Right? Like, and then they literally in an email linked me to every single post that they wanted us to sit down and talk with, right? Like, they are like not mean. They're not like the police. Like, they're not trying to make it more difficult on us.
Yeah. So don't be afraid. You guys can do it. Okay. Any other questions on that, or anything that was unclear there before we move?
I think really when someone has said before, oh, if you look for one particular oil for one particular problem, you're going to run into problems. But if you talk about lifestyle, it's going to be a lot better because, yes, it will always include many other things: water, diet, environment, etc. So I'm getting that that's kind of what you're saying. So we should steer clear of, focusing too much on one oil. But hey, let's get the whole lifestyle thing going. Right?
There you go.
Yeah.
So Roxana, do you understand why my answers are so irritating right now? Because she's always asking me stuff, and I try to answer it compliantly.
Yeah, there's some Spanish sites. I mean, literally, they go on, what's the cure for cancer? Well, how do you cure cold sores? What's the protocol for very specific things? I don't know how that thing hasn't been majorly flagged. I guess I don't have Spanish police yet.
Yeah, I bet probably the FDA and the FTC haven't been on it in Spanish. But when we break some more Spanish diamonds, they'll come after us. So we might as well just practice doing it right now. So
Can I just say that compliancy kind of scared me a little to begin with, but really I feel like when we're compliant and we really practice that, we end up empowering our members to be more proactive in their life and doing their own research. Because when they research for themselves, that's when they get empowered, and that's what we want them to do. So it ends up being a really beneficial thing for us and our businesses, I think, anyway.
The other thing is then we can talk to everybody, right? Because you only want diseased people on there. Like, I wouldn't have been able to sign up a personal trainer if I was trying to convince him of cures, right? He wants oils to have more solutions of chemical free. He feels like he has everything he needs and he is at the tip top. He doesn't think he even needs vitamins or supplements because he can do everything with exercise and diet right now. But if I couldn't have came to him with, well, people might get to 80 and they may have issues due to the toxins in their home, and here oils are a great way to get toxins so you can come from both angles, I would not have been able to sign them up if I tried to do it non-compliantly. So that's definitely a true statement. And then the one other thing that I think maybe we didn't clarify as clearly that Julie mentioned in the chat, remember that vitality oils are supplements and are the only ones that you can use with systems. So for immune support and things of that nature. If you're talking about the other ones, you only have frou-frou answers. It is very soothing. It has a nice smell. So that's actually one of the reasons why when everybody was like so excited about the Thieves Roll-On, I was like, well, why are you rubbing it on your kids' feet? Like you can't say that it supports immune when you rub it on their feet. So you rub it on their feet because you like the smell, or so that's another one that I still make a mistake sometimes. And if you guys see like the Vital 180 graphics, they always have both Vitality and the normal one on there. So then you can list everything and you don't worry about which is which. So that's another one that I'm still trying to remember to do correctly. And yes, Vitality, you must ingest it. So if I'm sitting there and someone says, oh, I can't stand the way the Digest Vitality is, I have to say, oh, well, we have another version that you can use topically. I can't tell them to put that one on topically. So that's another one to practice and get used to, because I still mess up a little bit occasionally with that one.
All right.
And I also would say, to a certain extent, like the names pretty much say what they are, right? Like Cortistop, it's to stop your cortisol. Like, like most of the names, like it says exactly what it does. Like Endogize is for your endocrine. I don't know.
Yeah. We don't need to make it more than what it is. I mean, to simplify it. Okay. Tashina, did you have anything else that you wanted to share?
Not on compliance. It's
Okay.
pretty much. I do have a video that I'll put it in the chat that I did previously, just
Okay.
for a review of everyone, just going over it. And again, I think if we get in the mindset that we teach lifestyle, we always, like if you see the lives that I do, we always teach diet, toxin-free, and support. If you always teach that way, then you'll be able to say whatever you would like to say.
Okay. All right. Well, that sounds good. Everybody's good on compliancy now. You should be compliance masters by now. There's so many resources now, and Tashina's going to post that video in there. Julie mentioned one of the Diamonds from 12 Days of Diamonds has a whole compliance one-on-one video. So if any of this was unclear to you, feel free to go back and either watch the replay again or watch one of those videos.
And don't be scared to
Yeah.
share. Don't be scared. Like we're gonna mess up. It's okay. Just do your best.
I mean, I've never been flagged by the FDA, and by compliance. And like she said, they're super nice. They're there to help us. So there's nothing to be scared. They just called me the one time and they were super nice about it. They're like, yeah, we want to post this. You just got to change this in an email. So when you do it, it's definitely nothing to be scared about whatsoever, because if you blow up and they see you, then Young Living is there to help you work through it and clean it up. Shannon Hudson's been flagged I don't know how many times. She's mentioned it, and they're there to help us. There's absolutely nothing to be scared of.
And I think if you're going to post something and you really want to share it and you're not sure whether it's compliant or not, just reach out. I used to do that with Leah until I got to the point where I was, pretty clear about what is and what isn't compliant. And so, I mean, I'm available if anybody wants to send anything to me and just say, hey, do I need to change anything?
All right. So at this point, do we want to switch gears? Tashina, you have some notes you'd like to share with us?
Yeah, so actually, usually I don't get to listen to the Silver leadership calls. So if you guys didn't know, there's a monthly call for silvers and golds and platinums. And so it usually doesn't fit into my schedule, but I was available, so I put it on my schedule. And the individual, I can't remember her name, I didn't write it down, but she is a gold. I think when they probably booked her, she was a gold, but she just hit platinum in November. And before that, corporate was sharing with us, so we had the best month ever in November. So there were 94 individuals that hit silver for their third month. So they achieved getting to silver retreat. There were 299 in November that hit it for their second time, and 953 broke silver last month. So just for perspective, usually on a normal month, we hit about in between 100 and 200. Then we hit 953. So it was an awesome month. There were 19 new golds in November, 4 new platinums, and 6 new diamonds. So, and then another thing that was pretty cool is that, so when you're silver, we have mastermind calls, which are super, super helpful, but they're actually going to have some push calls so that when you hit it for the first time, they tell you what to do so that you can maintain it. So that's like super cool because we know that it changed, whereas like you have to maintain it to actually carry it. So corporate has actually created a call to help you maintain it. And then there's going to be momentum calls for executives. So that's going to come out in the Silver Leadership Group in December. So if anyone is an executive, there are now going to be calls for you guys to increase momentum and hit silver, because they want everyone to, who has that goal to reach silver by February, because that's when we have to hit it in order to start qualifying for our next retreat. So that was super cool. I'd never heard of that before. So I don't know if it's new, but I want to make sure that all the executives on our team knew that. So then this particular platinum actually came from the retail world. So she was actually sharing stuff that she knows from the retail world. And so she was just stating, everyone is still in shopping mode right now. Remember, there's a whole group of people out there that are procrastinators and last minute people. So don't just think that Black Friday is everything. And she actually said that the next biggest shopping day after Black Friday is the day after Christmas. So I had never heard that before. So there's people that are exchanging stuff, they're getting money back, and they go shopping again. So December is an awesome month to continue your momentum and to rank up. So she said, treat it like a tornado and make it even better. Like, we should jump into the tornado and make a lot of motion to get even more momentum from what we had in November. And then around 70% of revenue in any retail happens between October and December. So again, don't pull off the brakes and slow down. Now's the time to do even more in December than you did in November. So do any and everything you can to maximize. people are also buying a lot for themselves. So Shannon had mentioned at her event that like you should get used to saying the phrase because people are buying a bunch for other people. And this is the gift that you get for yourself when you're talking about the kit. And she said, also reach for your lowest hanging fruit. So if you've got a lot of zeros that did not take advantage of Black Friday, you should be reaching out to every single one of them. Like we had just had these new products come out. That should go to all of your zeros. You should be getting all of your zeros to education classes. And you got to rally your troop, present the monthly promos all the time, the new limited products, promote all of those things just like you did Black Friday. If you still have people who didn't buy for Black Friday, you promote them just as hard as you did for Black Friday. And then remember that people buy on Black Friday because they like a sale. They want a deal. But remember, we have a sale every month. That's our promos. You need to make the connection in people's minds and explain to them being on ER and staying on ER, you can get 20% off all the time and free stuff. So make that connection in their mind to don't just get this sale, get another sale next month by getting on Essential Rewards. So that should be everybody's goal. People who bought last month but are not on ER, we need to completely explain to them about being on ER. And then momentum plus action equals results. Make sure that you're game planning for the new year. Make your goals, strategize, and communicate that, then duplicate that. That's how you're going to go forward. And you need to work backwards. So if you say, I want to be this rank by convention, I'm at this OGV, my deficit OGV is this, I need to get this per month. And then work with your people to create stars. So if you need this OGV in this leg, how many stars do you got to create in that leg to get that OGV where you need it to? And then she said, communicate, communicate, and over-communicate. You cannot send an email and think everyone will see it. You cannot post in your Facebook book and think everyone will see it. Remind people via messenger and text. Hey, I sent you an email. Hey, did you see my post in Facebook? And that was the notes that I had from her. So I thought they were just super, super cool, especially like the stats and stuff that we had. And I had messaged it to a couple people on my team. I was like, everybody needs to hear this. It was pretty good stuff. With some key tips in there. So I wanted to share that.
There we go.
Okay, we were trying to get ourselves on mute.
No, I was in the middle of responding. Okay, so there was a couple things that you hit on that are actually really, really, really neat. It's exciting that they're having an executive call, although I cannot get on yet. So sounds like that's a
hashtag December goals.
Right. But so here's the thing too that you mentioned that actually is pretty good is connecting the fact that people are getting a sale every single month. Like the only way to build is to have people on ER. Like if you're signing people up and they're not getting on ER, then I don't want to say that you're starting from ground zero next month, but you pretty much are, because that sign up for that kit is only good for the month that you signed them up. Whereas if you create someone a sign up who's on ER, then now that's something that you can build off of because you know you're getting an order that month. So with it being the month of Christmas, people generally do a lot of shopping. Like you mentioned, there are a lot of procrastinators, and for some reason, Young Living seems to be prioritizing new kit sales, like shipping them out. I know some of the kit sales that Dana and I had at the end of the month for November came quicker than our ER orders. Like they are getting them out lightning fast. So definitely an incentive for people who want to get something out for family members before the holidays or even for themselves. So just keep that in mind. If you have goals and you're continuing to press on, if you're reaching for silver by February.
Silver by February.
Silver by February. And this is the time to do it because December, you have Christmas. January, you have people making New Year's resolutions. So they're definitely thinking about making some changes and lifestyle changes in their lives. So definitely momentum there. And then by the time you get to February, that's tax season. So a lot of people are starting to get their tax returns back. And those who maybe told you money was an issue in the past, maybe they might have a little bit more discretionary funds to use. So for the next 3 months, push, because you definitely have things on your side. And if you're pushing for silver by February, like you can definitely hit it.
Push.
Why does she keep putting this finger in my face?
You talking to you too, right?
I am.
Yeah, executive by December. So you can be silver by February.
Yeah.
Okay, so events. I feel like we're repeating ourselves. So I'll talk about my event. I have a Facebook event coming up tomorrow evening. It's on pets and oils. I'm excited.
It's a Facebook class?
It's a Facebook class, so anybody is welcome to invite people. I have a few people, like prospects and stuff, that are they have fur babies, so I wanted to do that class this month.
And then for those in the Metro Detroit area, we have the team get together Tuesday. Rusty Bucket, correct, Tashina?
That is correct. So if you guys saw my lives today, I just got all the sleek products. So if you have not tried the sleek bars, if you want to walk away with tea, if you want to try the sleek shake, if you want to, maybe one person will get a packet of sleek Citra caps. But so come get some samples. And I mean, the thing is that everybody's going to be thinking and talking about it. So even if you don't need it, like, this is a way for you to try the products so that you can know what we have, what they do, and talk about fitness and be ready when everyone is talking about how they need solutions for weight loss. And then I'm doing the same class in Spanish on Facebook on the 18th. And then we actually asked, there was some people wanted support actually doing the Sleek in 60 challenge. So I put on Facebook the 27th, open 2-week one, and I'll probably keep moving it out. So that'll be the time where we talk one last time with people, a lot of people from other states, and one of our other groups asked for the support. So we're going to talk about all of the Sleek stuff and then encourage each other on a daily basis as we start doing the Sleek in 60. And then January 1st, Dana, we're starting talking about the cleansing trio.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So the cleansing trio, we'll talk about that. Facebook. Well, actually, our Health Talk with the Mots, we're going to be talking about cleansing too, to kind of prep for it. And then we will actually do the cleanse with the cleansing trio starting on the 13th of January.
Yeah. So again, educating people and getting them to fall in love with the products, make sure they know product lines. That's how we get them on ER, getting them ordering on a regular basis. So knowing that we got holidays in here and people off and people all out of town, we tried to overload with Facebook classes. But again, if you're in the Metro Detroit on Tuesday, then definitely join us for that class.
Can we invite people? Does anyone else have any other events that they want to promote while on the call? Can we invite people?
I think all our Facebook classes are always public, so everybody can invite whomever they want, and it'll show us who invited them.
All right. Something to think about if you're in the Metro Detroit area. Our rally is coming up January 19th. So promote those in your team. If you have not bought your ticket already, be sure to do that if you plan on attending. We ran into quite a few people who are driving. They don't mind driving. They're driving quite some distance. So don't rule anybody out just because you think they might stay too far. Definitely promote for that. That'll be here before you know it. And it's a great momentum builder for January as well. So I didn't want to put that out there.
I just before we close out, just one other thing. Like I've mentioned to the group before, I am coaching directly with corporate because they want to help our group. We have diversity in our group. They're looking to build the millennials. They're looking to build African Americans. They're looking to build Spanish speaking. So, I mean, the call that I had with them was super encouraging. I mean, they're like, yeah, we want everybody to join your rally. So, I mean, that's just, to me, like super encouraging. Like they were going to call the other 2 rallies in our area and be like, we would like you to close yours down and join theirs because they're doing what we want to see in the Metro Detroit area. And then one other thing, like there's a bunch of good stuff that's about to get released on the app that I can't even say. That's when I talk to them, they're like, okay, you can't share this with anybody. So if you're not using the app right now, like start using it like yesterday. Like it's going to be so all encompassing. It's going to be your everything tool. And that's all I can say because I can't share details.
Does the app work in Canada? Do you know?
I don't know if it's been released in Canada. They released it in Mexico when they had their convention.
Mm-hmm.
So I would have thought they would have released it for your convention. So I would go ahead and like email customer service or call customer service and see if they released it at your convention.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you.
All right. Well, if nobody has anything else to add, we'll go ahead and close out tonight's call. Great participation, guys. Hopefully everyone got their questions answered really quickly. Oh, there's one last question. So Kate asked, no reference guides at classes.
No reference guides at classes.
There you go. All righty. So once again, thank you everybody for tuning in. Hopefully you found this of some benefit and value, and continue to push, and we'll see everybody on next week's call. Everyone, till then, everybody have a good night.